Hey guys, Dark Leandra here. So in this video I would like to talk about all the books I read during the month of March. And to begin with, I would like to talk about this series that I have just discovered and completely and utterly fallen in love with, and that is The Dragon Keeper by Robin Hobb. This is the first one in the series called The Rainwild Chronicles. And it's basically about a group of dragons, misfit dragons, who must travel along with a bunch of keepers to find a new home. They're more specifically looking for an old dragon city called Kelsingra, of which they have vague dreams and memories of. Um, there are actually five perspectives going on in this story. You have Alice Fenbrook, who is the wife of a trader and a scholar of dragons. You have Cedric, her childhood best friend, who has reluctantly agreed to accompany her. You have Captain Leftrin, who is the captain of the ship that's going to help the dragons. You have Taimara, who is one of the dragon's keepers and also a social outcast. People used to be afraid of her because of her physical appearance. Actually, she and the other keepers were marked by the rain wilds. They have scalings on their bodies, which is why people are afraid of them. And the last perspective is from Sintara, a bitter and resentful dragon. Now, when I say the dragons are misfits, I mean that they can't hunt, they can't take care of themselves, they can't fly. Basically, they can't do anything by themselves, which is why they have keepers. So what I like about this series is the dragons. First of all, they're really amazing. Very arrogant, very full of themselves. Um, they're sentient beings. They're dragons, not pets, not human beings, dragons, and they always remind you of that. I love the writing style. Robin Hobb really knows how to write, and her writing style is amazing. It's really very well constructed. It flows incredibly well. I'm completely in love with it. I also like the characters. There's a wide cast of characters. They're very diverse. They great character development. And in the first book, now the first book might be a bit slow because it's devoted to the keepers meeting their dragons and meeting each other. So you see how their friendships form, alliances, etc. So it's a bit slow, but I think it actually helps set up the rest of the story really well. There are 4 books in the series. I have read the first 2. The third one's on its way. I'm really excited for it. The next book I would like to talk about is The Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood. This was not my first book by Margaret Atwood. My first one was A Handmaid's Tale, which I did not really like because it's a little too depressing. This one is kind of basically, it's about Iris Chase, who starts to recall basically, there are 2 sisters, Iris and Laura. When Laura was very young, she committed suicide by driving off a bridge. Now, 50 years later, her elder sister, Iris, recalls her childhood, how she and Laura grew up. Now, there are actually 3 different stories. You have the story of Laura and Iris growing up. You have the story of Iris as an old woman during the present day, when she's recalling her childhood. And you also have the book that Laura was supposed to have written, but that was published after her death. It's called The Blind Assassin. And it's basically about this, it's a science fiction pulpy type of story. It's about this assassin who falls in love with a sacrificial virgin. I really like this book. Margaret Atwood is an incredible writer. My favorite story was obviously the one about Iris and Laura growing up. Basically, the story of 2 sisters who grew up at a time where women had to be content with being shiny objects and nothing else. So if you're not sure about Margaret Atwood, please check out The Blind Assassin. It's really good, I promise you. The next book I would like to talk about is Norwegian Wood by Murakami. This is about Toru Watanabe and his first year at university. About his first love, Naoko, who was also the girlfriend of his best friend Kizuki. Something happened to Kizuki in high school. I'm not going to tell you what. So basically, Toru and Naoko have to... they were best friends before, and now they have to learn how to be together in a relationship. The only problem is Naoko becomes depressed and she commits herself to an asylum. Oh, kind of asylum. Toru meets another girl called Midori. And yeah, that's all I have to say on the subject. Um, whilst I was reading this book, I really enjoyed it, but now that I think back on it, I can't really find anything I really liked about it, so I'm not sure how that happens. Um, it, I don't know. It's nothing extraordinary. The writing style isn't that bad. The characters are nothing special. Although I do have a problem with the female characters, serious problems. But yeah, I didn't really care. I don't care for this book as much as I used to. I have ordered another book I have ordered another book by Murakami, so we'll see how that goes. I'll let you guys know. Next book is a French book, Soumission by Michel Houellebecq. And yes, since I am French, I read this in French, obviously. I'm not sure it exists in English, but I could be wrong about that. Basically, this takes place in France in 2022 during the French presidential elections. So on the one side you have the extreme right wing led by Marine Le Pen. On the other side you have a Muslim party called La Fraternité Musulmane, if I recall correctly. And I can't remember the guy's name. So basically it's the Muslim party that wins the presidential elections, and you see how France is changed under that. Apparently for the best. This story is actually narrated through the eyes of a French university professor who's in his 40s and who has, professionally, he has everything he wants, but that's it. Professionally, he's at the top. He has his intellectual career. From that point, he's very well respected, but he has no family. He doesn't really have anything else going on in his life, so he's quite cynical, quite pessimistic, quite detached. I did not like this book. First of all, because of what happened to France under Sharia law, so to speak. Women were not allowed to go to school, and when they did, in university, they could only study English and art, not math and physics. I have nothing against English and art. I'm an English student myself, but I had problems with that. Obviously, they had to wear veils. Polygamy was made legal. Is made legal, and anyone who doesn't convert to Islam is sent off into early retirement with a big, fat, heavy paycheck. It's better than being killed, I guess, but still. I also didn't like the sex scenes, which were very, very explicit, very graphic. Obviously, that disturbed me. So, yeah, I did not like this book, and yet I thought the premise sounded interesting, but the execution was I didn't like it when it came down to it. Next book, L'Amie Prodigieuse by Elena Ferrante. This was originally an Italian book that I read translated into French. I know it exists in English. It's called My Brilliant Friend. So you've really got to check it out because this book is really, really good. It's one of my new all-time favorite books. It's the first one in a trilogy, and it's basically about two young girls growing up in the slums of Naples during the 60s, I think. The 50s or 60s. I think it's the 60s, I'm not sure. So we follow them in this book from ages 6 to 16. The narrator is Elena, and her best friend is Lila, and that's the biggest point about this book, is the female friendship. It's really, really strong. It's really present. Basically, the series is about that, which I really, really liked. I also liked how there was a slight competitive aspect to their friendship, especially where Elena is concerned, because Elena has this inferiority complex towards Lila, in the sense that no matter what she does, she feels like Lila does it so much better than she does, whether it's for school. Despite the fact that at 11, Lila is taken out of school and made to work at home, Elena still feels inferior. When it comes to boys, it's the same thing. Basically, Lila does everything so much better than Elena does, and I don't think Lila realizes that. Anyway, I really, really like this book. I'm very much looking forward to checking out the rest of the series. Next was Lord of the Flies by William Golding, a modern classic, I think it's called. For those who don't know what the story is about, it's about a group of boys English school boys who, after a plane crash, find themselves stranded onto an inhabited island. Now, in order to try and be a little civilized, they decide to elect a leader, Ralph, which doesn't make one of the other boys happy. Jack, he wanted to be a leader, but the others voted for Ralph. So they also decide to divide the tasks among themselves. Like, you have some who take care of the fire, others who are going to hunt, and others who are going to build cabins, huts, so they can live in them. But soon a power struggle grows between Jack and Ralph, so that causes a lot of tension among the group, as does rumors of a sighting of a beast, a mysterious beast on the island. They are not alone. So I really, really like this book. It's really creepy. I like how it can be read on different levels. Like, you have the human level, about how basically at its core human nature is corrupt, and it doesn't take much to bring that out. I like the political level as well. I mean, Jack can be read as some kind of charismatic dictator, such as Stalin or Hitler, who takes advantage of a group of people who are at their worst, at their lowest. And I also liked the beast, the plot concerning the beast. That was the creepiest part of the book, in my opinion, and it's related to the title. I'm not going to tell you how. If you haven't read it, please go check out this book. It's really, really, really good, as well as being a modern classic. Now, last but not least, at least the book I read for pleasure this month. There were other books I read for class, but I'm not going to talk about them. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I actually really liked this book, which was a big surprise because I was expecting to not like it at all. I was expecting to be bored with Holden's constant whining. That did not happen. I'm not saying this book is remarkable, it isn't. It's not the best book I've ever read, and there isn't much of a plot, but that doesn't bother me much if I can connect to the characters. And yes, I did connect to Holden's character, which is surprising for a lot of people, but the way I see Holden, he's this very sensitive guy who just wants to talk. He just wants a real emotional connection to people, and you see that throughout the whole story, basically. Like, with the prostitute, for example, instead of sleeping with her, he wants to talk, which I thought was really, really funny. I mean, he's what, 15 years old? You see it with the duck scene. That was really, really cute, in my opinion. Holden has just been kicked out of school, and instead of worrying about where he's going to stay and what he's going to do next, he's worried about the ducks, about what's going to happen to the ducks, who's going to feed them, etc. And he harasses the taxi drivers. I thought that was really funny. I also loved his relationship with Phoebe. It was really, really sweet. The two of them get along really well, and I like that. I like seeing siblings get along, having a good relationship with each other. So yeah, I really like The Catcher in the Rye. And I'm not 15, I'm 20, so teenage angst, I'm past that, over it. But anyway, I really, 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 really like this book. So anyway, that's it, guys. All the books I read for pleasure this month. There were other books that I read for school. There was Edward II by Christopher Marlowe, Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, Glengarry Glen Ross by David Mamet, and Fool for Love by Sam Shepard. But I don't feel like talking about these books, honestly. They didn't mark me all that much, except for Fool for Love by Sam Shepard, but that was it. I didn't really like the rest. So if you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments down below, and more specifically, let me know what you read this month during the month of March, what you enjoyed, what you didn't like, and I will see you next time for another video.